First of all, thank you for doing this. I know, especially with you not feeling great, so I really appreciate it. Um, I have Brooke here from Origins Birthing Center here in Fort Worth. Brooke, do you want to give a little introduction on yourself?
Yes. So I'm Brooke. I am the patient advocate over here at Origins. I'm at the Fort Worth location right now and actually help out with our Dallas location too. And I've been around Origins for a while now. I was a client and I've kind of worked in lots of different capacities. But now my job is to mostly just help take care of the clients.
I love that. So Origins is a birthing center. Do you mind sharing with our listeners a little bit of how that differs from like a hospital birth or a home birth?
Yes, so we here have midwives instead of OBGYNs, and they do all of our care, and then we do all our deliveries here in house, unmedicated delivery. So it's just kind of a different dynamic. We have longer appointment times and just a little bit more personalized care because that's what our clients tend to come here for is the emotional support as well as a physical support and just that planned unmedicated delivery.
Yes, beautiful. So we know, working with laboring patients a lot of the times, no matter what you plan for, sometimes things go off plan. Sometimes intervention is needed, and there's nothing that can be done to prevent that from happening. So, with that being said, my goal in this conversation is to kind of talk about how you as a birthing center and as a patient advocate help these moms and these families kind of navigate those disappointments and those traumas. I would like to start off by talking about what Origins does to kind of help moms navigate those roads.
So I think in general, sometimes it's almost a little bit worse for our clients here because typically clients who are planning an out of hospital birth have planned very hard for that, right? It's not the standard status quo, it is a very conscious decision to be able to do that. And so we like plan A is like, here's what we want, everything's great, there's this. And then we'll talk about plan B that maybe we needed to go to the hospital for whatever various reasons, maybe baby's misbehaving or things like that. Or there's plan Z where everything totally goes completely out the window. Um, and we've got to, have an emergency cesarean or something like that. And anytime things don't go 100% according to plan, there's obviously the physical toll, but there's that huge emotional toll, which I do think weighs heavier. Um, at least it feels that way, the way that, when we've debriefed with our clients and kind of talked through, hey, here's how it's landed this. It's the morning of what they had planned for and what they had dreamed because you're meeting your child, right? That's a huge life thing. And people paint these pictures in their heads and they see these beautiful birth videos. And, it just doesn't always go that way. And so we definitely have learned to frame like, okay, well, here's why we had to have plan B or plan C or whatever. And letting them first and foremost just blurb it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about how sad I am that I didn't get plan A. Now let's start trying to put pieces together and see like how we can process that together.
Good. I love that. I love, giving the families the opportunity to verbalize how they feel. That's so important in the healing process. And then also there's the education component of this is why this, happened. I think that's huge as well. So is there anything that you see these families doing that seem to be helpful with their coping and their processing and moving forward?
So like I said, we allot very specific time for them to come and talk because our standard postpartum care is that we'll do a home visit 2 to 5 days. We'll do another check-in at 2 weeks and then 4 weeks and 6 weeks. 4 weeks is as needed, but a lot of times our moms who didn't get plan A, they come in and it's simply a full processing appointment and what that needs to look like. And we do emotional assessments along the way. So we can gauge like what's in the realm of normal postpartum hormones and then what's not. And a big thing that we do here that's going to be more unique to the birth center is that when our moms deliver, they expect to have their herbal bath. And that's just that healing, peaceful bonding moment where we have our proprietary blend of herbs that the moms get to do right after delivery. Well, obviously, if they weren't here for any reason, then they've missed that herbal bath, but that is something we can still offer to them even if they didn't deliver here. So they will come back and it's just a peaceful moment for them and their baby. A lot of times in the room that they started laboring in, or the room they would have picked. Um, and then we'll have our midwives come in and out kind of as they prefer. Like sometimes people want a midwife in there the whole time and they want to talk it out all while they're in there. Other times they're like, thanks for setting me up. I want to do this with my baby and have our moment. Like fantastic either or. So everyone kind of has a different need with that on what helps them, but that's a really big moment. And if you we've talked to our clients who have had those more traumatic experiences, and then after the fact, they're like, my herbal bath was so much closure.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. We
it,
talked to some doulas a couple of days ago, and one of them was big on like finding something to give the moms as a sense of closure, like a activity to do to kind of bring it all to an end. And I thought that that was very beautiful. So I love
it
the herbal
is.
baths.
In our cesarean moms too, we have a different ceremony that's called the closing of the bones. And it's
Oh,
basically where we take these rebozos and we like wrap
nice.
them up, and it's really just a reminder for them like your body is not broken. Like your body did what it needs to do to keep your baby safe and to bring your baby earthside. Because if medical conditions arise like that, it's so easy to get in their heads and be like, I'm broken. And we're like, you're absolutely not. And so it's just a matter of speaking those words over them and speaking life and encouragement, because they have the lies swirling in their head that they failed, and they absolutely did.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that you guys offer all of those wonderful things to kind of help with the processing. Um, do you are there things that you have seen like other providers do that you or that you wish you saw other providers do more of to kind of help navigate those roads?
Honestly, I really think the biggest thing is just allowing people space, right? That's it missed so much. Like when I had my baby, my first one, I had my second one here and it was great. But my first one, I just needed somebody to give allowance to listen. And that feels like such a simple thing, but it's such a missed thing because people
Really
are
is.
busy and they just, and it, while it really boils down typically to a busy schedule and not anyone's lack of caring, it feels like you were an afterthought and it feels
Yeah.
like you were pushed off. And that's just something I wish could change in general, even if it was 30 minutes, right? Like, but people typically get five, a pat on their head and send on their
Mm-hmm.
way. And that's just, a lot of times people don't want anything. You can't fix it. They're not looking for you to fix it. They just want to hear, they want to be heard. They just
Yeah.
want to tell their story. So,
Yes. Agreed. That is very true. That's definitely seems to be a common something that has come up several times
mhm.
amongst the different professionals I've spoken with and the different moms. It's always that the time and to verbalize and just to be heard. It's not even about seeking advice. It's not about any kind of input. It's just the being heard process. And so that is very true. Is there anything that, I mean, it sounds like Origins has a wonderful way of going about helping these mamas cope and heal as they move forward. But is there anything that you guys are trying to implement or improve on in your facility that you think would be beneficial?
Yeah, so I mean, in part, that's somewhat why my role was created, to be a third party. So I can just be here to listen. Like even this week, like somebody called me because there was just such a disconnect happening between her and the midwife, and like everybody had good intentions but nobody could seemingly get on the same
Mhm.
page for understanding of like where her, kind of where her trauma resonated, like, and it, nobody was really even doing anything wrong. But then I was able to come in completely uninvolved with either situation and be like, first off, like, let's just talk this out. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Tell me everything. I'm going to write everything down. And then, okay, awesome. Let's pull up your chart. Let's look at this together. Let's walk through this. And I was able to walk through it with a patient, and then in same turn around and walk through it with one of the midwives and one of the care providers. And I'm like, see, this is, and then everyone was on the same page and everyone's like, oh, great. Everything's totally fine. Um, but sometimes that's just needed. Or i am I am that peer person. Like I also went through the postpartum depression, anxiety, and have history of trauma and like all these kinds of things as well. And sometimes it's just a matter of like the midwives will go into an appointment and they'll be like, hey, this person's like, they've got all kinds of red flags for future postpartum issues or things like
Yeah.
that. And so they'll pull me in, they're like, hey, what can we do beforehand? Like, let's lay
Mhm.
this out. Like, or, we have our women's health nurse practitioner, and sometimes they'll do consults with her of like, what's the best supplements? Do we want to talk about medications for later down the road? But I get to help individualize game plans with these guys who have had a history of it, who have extra concerns about it, or who just want to talk to somebody that understands, and make them feel like they're not crazy and just validate them and knowing that they're not the only person in the world that feels like that or has ever felt like that, and get to do that with them. And so therefore, like, their medical care is being fully taken care of by their midwives, but then I get to be a resource and a plan to help with the emotional care or
Mhm.
continued medical care if we need resources or
Yeah.
referrals to go somewhere else, just getting them in the right hands. Because if you send somebody out on their own, it's just so overwhelming, and it's kind of luck of the draw if you're going to get somebody or not. And we've already vetted these providers and we've trusted them and we've built relationships with them over time from years of being. Origins has been around almost 10 years. It's been a long process of
Yeah.
building these, but then we can say it with confidence if we're going to have to send our clients out that it's not just like to a pack of wolves, right? Like, we've kind of taken them much smoother than that. So
Yes, I know. I've heard, pretty great things about Origins across the board. So I love, all of the things that you guys are working on and towards. And I know you and I have talked in the past, and you had mentioned that y'all are starting up your postpartum support groups back as well,
we did. We
which,
actually had our first ones last month,
yay,
which went really well. It was very good. It was a nice, genuine conversation amongst moms.
good. I love that. And I know that's also a great way for these mamas to come together and talk and kind of process and, knowing that, postpartum can be very isolating and lonely. And so whenever you have other people to go through it with, or to just know, hey, this person went through this as well, that in itself can be a huge help.
Oh, huge. And it definitely built connection. Like, we had moms that
Mhm.
were exchanging phone numbers because they were like, man, your struggle's the same as my struggle. And like, well, we're all up at 4 a.m. So like, let's text at 4 a.m. and things like that. And that was really cool to get to see because it was pretty organic. It was just a matter of facilitating that space and that safety of it's okay to not be okay here.
Yeah.
Um, and it's cool, and it's for moms in Origins, outside of Origins, anywhere, because it really doesn't matter. And like I said, we have our own moms that transfer to the hospital and things like that for various reasons too. So it's good when people from outside come as well, because it's different people with different kind of perspectives.
Yeah. Good. Wonderful. Well, thank you so very much for coming on and having this conversation with me. Before we wrap it up, is there anything that you want to share, or any last, words, last bit that you want to tell people about?
Um, I just, and I want to thank you guys because what y'all are doing and the mission of it is just really important.
Thank
Um,
you.
and that's just what creates change, right? And that's what creates healing and how we step forward and all work together to just make this better because it doesn't have to be the dark, lonely place that culture has created it to be. And it's never going to change unless we do it, right? Unless we step forward and do it. And I am thankful to be a part of Origins, and that being such a heart and vision for us is just the general whole woman care and not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, because they have their own huge impacts, including physical ramifications too.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm thankful that we're all together, kind of working in the right direction.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you again. And I look forward to having more conversations like this with you in the future.
Absolutely, anytime.
Bye bye.
Our mission at the Sitting Moon is to raise awareness, remove stigmas, and reduce barriers, thereby contributing to a healthier mother, family, and society. Please, if you're having any problems, we encourage you to speak up, get help. Remember, you are not alone.